I just bought this busted, non-running, pre-facelift BMW 118i. It's a non-runner, and over the course of 3 short weeks, I transformed it into this unique, one-of-one, 500 brake horsepower 1 series, which I'm dubbing the M140 Evo. No one else on YouTube has done this, so enjoy. If you want to see all the episodes, you can check them out on my playlist, and this is the full story of how I did it.
Alright you guys, so now that you've seen the car, let me give you the plan. You've seen that I've picked up my base car for just over £1,000. My plan is I'm going to strip everything on that car to the bare shell. I'm going to get rid of the engine, manual gearbox, and I'm going to head over to Copart. I've already found it, I've already won it. I've purchased a category B M140i Shadow Edition, which is gonna give me all the parts that I need. I'm gonna drop the B58 subframe and the front suspension as one giant unit, the rear subframe, suspension, and all of the brake mechanisms as one unit. So that's gonna have 2 giant units to bolt onto this frame. I'm gonna go on the interior, I'm gonna strip down every single module, all the wiring, all the carpet, all the seats, dash, the lot. It's all gonna come out of the M140, it's all gonna come out of the 118i. I'm gonna have to do some coding, and I've got 2 very special sponsors on board. They're gonna help me extract as much power out of the B58 engine as well as that 8-speed automatic transmission. But before we even get close to all of that, I've got a ton of work to do. So like I said,
So guys, no more talking. I got straight to work and I stripped down the front end, rear end, and I began tearing down the interior of the base model, which is a 118i. Like I said, it's a non-runner, so the plan is to just strip it down, sell a ton of parts, and try to recoup some of that £1,300 which it cost me. So after a few short hours, I was able to have the car looking like this. The front end was down, rear end was down, and the majority of the interior was removed. As you can see, there was a ton of parts, and already I had recouped over £600 from selling these on eBay. Now was the time that I wanted to do a test fit on the rear tailgate, which I took from my facelift M140i. And as you can see, there was a slight little bent on the tailgate from the accident when I bought the car, so I had to sort that out, and I went ahead and I fitted the rear lights, and this is what I was left with. Moving on, I had to remove all the carpets, and to gain access to that I had to remove all of these mechanisms because I need to get the wiring loom out of the car. So we're gutting this car completely down to the bare shell. Apart from swapping out the B58 engine, I'm also converting this car from manual to fully automatic, and the wiring loom is key to that. So there's no shortcuts here, no snipping. I have to meticulously go through and remove every single module, every single bit of wiring, which took ages, but we got there in the end. So if the wiring removed from the rear of the car, I moved on to the front. The B58 engine utilizes a different setup for all the wiring, cooling, everything on the front had to go basically. So here I am stripping down the front end, and this is going to make way for the M140 bits which I've got in storage. But enjoy this, and I'll give you a little bit more info in a bit.
Have a look at this. So when you take your dashboard out, I've done dashboards before, but like I said, I love to learn new things. These are the two connectors that were in the engine bay. It's the final countdown. Let's get all of this stuff out of here. And there's a lot of wiring. So all the wiring loom, it's all connected. So the same wiring loom that's in here, it just goes through the bulkhead, and I need to disconnect everything there and drag it back through this way.
So guys, there you have it. The complete wiring loom is out of the car, and now I'm going to be swapping out this unit. This is the clutch delete. I do not need this. I need to replace it with the single pedal type. So with all the wires and modules removed, this is what I was left with on the interior of the car. I know it looks a mess, but I promise you, we're going to do it. So with my canvas clear, I went next door and I grabbed all my M140 bits from storage. If you look right there in the corner, you saw the engine just now, but I'll show you that a little bit later on. I needed all of the components to replace back into the 118 shell, and with everything loaded up, off I went. First, I had to lay the M140 wiring loom. Now it looks a complete mess, but I've actually got all the connectors labeled and I knew exactly where everything had to go. I had to thread the wires back through the correct holes, install all the modules into the correct locations, and then I was able to replace everything else. Now at this stage is make or break. I've replaced the entire wiring loom, and if there's no power here, we're gonna have issues.
These are the keys that came with the breaker. So if this works, then there's a problem. So I'm pressing, there's nothing there. Okay, I heard that, I just heard clicking, clicking, clicking is good. We've got life, guys, we have got life.
So now that that was working, I had to figure out a way of wiring up the sunroof. I really wanted to retain that, and I managed to get that working. With all of that good to go, have a look. This is the beast, the B58 and the 8-speed automatic transmission. These are the parts that I'm going to be fitting in. Before I did that though, I swapped out my springs for some lowering springs. It was nice and convenient with all of that off the car. Now let's get the engine in the car. Now before I can fit the B58 engine, I had to remove the 118 engine. I had to strip down everything beneath the car, and then I went ahead and I removed the 3 locking nuts that holds the suspension onto the chassis, disconnect all the brake lines, disconnect all the fuel lines, disconnect every single thing around this engine. It was a lot of work, but as you can see, here we are, we're lifting the shell of the car and out comes the complete unit. With all of that out, I went ahead and I continued to strip down this engine bay area. I'm replacing every single thing on this 118, and I'm replacing it with every single module from the M140. What you just saw me doing just now is replacing the brake system, because the M140's got rated performance brakes, and I also went ahead and I fitted all the electronics for the B58. With a little bit of help from my mate Dino, I had to wiggle that beast of an engine around, and just like that, the B58 was in the car. After fitting all the ancillaries, I had to drill some extra holes for the new performance suspension. Now, as you can see, the engine is on, however, it won't start, so the race was on. I had to swap out the entire fueling system, and to gain access to the fueling system, I had to drop the entire rear suspension. So out with the old fuel cell and in with the new M140 fueling system, everything went in a treat. Now it's time to check again. That was such a big moment in this build, but with that, I went ahead and I fitted some water to keep everything nice and cool, and I went ahead and I refitted the M140 rear suspension. Next up was paint, And guys, we're getting closer to the finish line. I couldn't believe that we have made it this far. Remember, check out the entire build series in my playlist. With painting completed, I got stuck into my first mod, which is a front mounted intake. Trust me, this thing sounds so sick, and it's gonna give that much needed added air to this B58 for all the big power plans that I've got for the future. I also went ahead and I changed out this charge pipe once again to future-proof the build. So guys, it was a ton of work. In total, it cost just over 5 grand. And here we have my M140 Evo.
Got a date in mind to take the car down to Santa Pod Raceway, where we're going to be doing some numbers, we're going to be installing some hardware, software, and then we're going to be doing some more numbers. But I'll announce that later on a future video, so stay tuned for that. But this is where we're going to end this episode. Let me know what you think of the paint, let me know what you think of the car, and like I always say, keep it moving. Good luck to you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. We out.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that, why don't you check out one of my previous videos on the left? There's plenty in the playlist. And if you want to know more about the Salvage game, why don't you become a member of Salvage Nation, and I'll be there to guide you along the way. And don't forget, you can follow me on Facebook, TikTok and Instagram if you want to get an inside scoop before YouTube.